When it comes to coaching, obviously there's lots of different ways to do it. We talk about ecological dynamics and things that are related. I, at Eastbourne Trampoline, coach using an ecological approach. And
Mhm.
I also coach in other places. In said other places, I am not in charge. So there is philosophies that they prefer, which I don't. And I'm at a point now where I'm being asked to coach a certain way because I am coaching at their venue, their facility. So my question is, do I coach according to my philosophy and the way that I believe is effective and keeps people jumping on a trampoline? Or do I coach using this other philosophy, which I have many signs to suggest is not going to be effective for certain individuals that they want me to work with? Now, I'm volunteering there. So my question is, do I continue volunteering and doing what I enjoy doing and helping the kids have fun on a trampoline, but run the risk of conflicting philosophies? Or do I just not coach? What are your thoughts?
Oh, let's start spicy, shall we? Let's just
Oh
go
yeah.
straight in there with the spice. Ah, that's tough. That's actually really tough. Is Can you find a way of coaching? And I already know the answer to this, but is there a way of doing both?
Is there a way of doing both? No, because that's like a pick and mix.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one or the other. There is either a right way to do the thing or multiple ways to do the thing. There
Mm,
can't be both.
And they want you to focus on the right way to
Yeah,
do it.
right way that they think is right, which, uh, as a perfect example, one of the coaches using said philosophy made a couple of comments to a person that was on the trampoline I was working on. And I asked the person, do you understand what that means? And they said, I ain't got a clue. And I said, do you care what that means? Nope. And I'm like, right, okay. So why would I try and coach like that if the person, one, doesn't understand it, and two, doesn't care to understand it? Yeah,
Mm,
you see my dilemma.
that's difficult.
So, and obviously I don't want to be, I don't want to be nasty and market my own club at another club because that's just wrong. You just don't do that. Um, but I feel like I'm just gonna, well, one, either drive myself nuts trying to coach this way that I really don't believe in, or end up leaving, which, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world because I coach an esport. But leaving is it's not giving up or giving in or losing or anything like that. It's sort of just it feels like a bit of a get out. It's like, yeah, whatever, you do your own thing over there. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, it's a dilemma.
Have you had discussions with the head coach around a different philosophy?
Right. But much like most of the coaches, they follow the buzzwords. For those in sports coaching, they'll be familiar. They'll follow the buzzwords. Oh, yeah, we're all inclusive and everyone can join in. And oh, there's lots of different solutions and everyone learns their own way. Those sorts of like buzzwords and buzz phrases. All the coaches say, oh, yeah, 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 we do that, we do that. But in practice, they don't. And trying to help someone recognize that they're not doing what they fundamentally believe is what they're doing is one, very difficult to do politically. And two, if that does happen, it takes a lot of time for them to recognize and reconcile what's going on because it is a worldview. Like our conversation when we discussed labels ADHD and things from an ecological perspective, it took a good, I would probably say, month or two for you to really grasp like what it was that I was saying.
Yeah,
Because as every human does, you're like, no, defense, you're wrong.
yeah,
I did when I started.
yeah. Yeah.
So I've tried, and I've been trying for a while, but it's not going anywhere, like with most. And I think it's partly because, which relates to another point I wanted to bring up, the ecological approach isn't a solution.
It's also I was having a conversation this with a client afterwards because ironically they knew someone who studied eco psych. So they asked me about where my philosophy came from, and then I spoke a little bit about it. They were like, no way. So they've been kind of circling the ecological psychology thing briefly. It's funny. And so we were talking about it, and that was exactly kind of like they were so yeah, I can't
It's
yeah.
so I had this interaction with a couple of people from the eco psych world, and they see it as a information processing versus ecological dynamics. And I'm like, academically, yes, it is, because academically they
Yeah.
butt heads. Academically, there is a difference. But practitioners, it's not a us versus them. Like ecological dynamics isn't a solution. The constraints-led approach isn't a solution. There
No.
are multiple possible solutions, some of which line up with the behaviors from information processing. Like
Yeah.
if you use the constraints-led approach and use a highly constrained practice, well, now you're doing, as in physically doing, the same thing someone from the information processing approach would be doing. So it's
Yeah.
not like the CLA is better or the CLA is the solution. No, the
No.
CLA suggests more
Because
than
that's
one
exactly the
solution.
darn point. Because that's the
Exactly.
point. And ecopsych is almost kind of a piece of the puzzle, but it's just a philosophy. It's more of a philosophy of practice, like we've been saying for ages. We use that to guide what we do, and then how we interact with the world is influenced by that, and it's subtle. It's not a big, massive, in a day to day, it's not a big, massive shift, but also it is a big, massive shift at the same time.
It's a worldview, it's a philosophy, it's a difference, and it's much broader. I think because it's so broad,
Yeah.
it confuses some people because there are scales of measurement, as we've spoken about before with fractals. So the conversations that I'm having with some of the EcoD coaches is that, oh no, the CLA is better than traditional coaching. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It can be more effective in some situations, but traditional coaching obviously works. Otherwise, it wouldn't have lasted for so long. But are there more effective ways to do it for some people? I think so. How do you do that? Well, there isn't a step by step. That's the point of EcoD. There's not a do this instead of that. And it's not a, oh, this is a better way to do the constraints led than the constraints led that you're doing. No, they're just different ways of approaching similar problems. And so when this relates to the conversation with these trampoline coaches, when they were talking about, oh, you don't want people from other clubs going to your club because, well, now other coaches may poach your people, which I'm like, I don't care. If they want to go to another club, they go to another club. So what? Um, but if they're being coached in a different way and they go to said club and they prefer it, then why is that a problem? Like if they prefer being coached a different way, if they prefer being told exactly what to do, then tell them exactly what to do. But I personally don't believe that's going to be as effective in the long term, keeping people engaged. And from my experience, it's not. Whether that's a bias because of the people I've worked with or because of the situations and environments that I've been in, probably. But every time that I have tried to give instruction to people, I'm met with resistance, far more resistance than using a more ecologically valid approach.
Yeah.
So the two questions there is like, do I continue volunteer coaching at this place that has a fundamentally different philosophy and are trying to make me coach in a way that I don't feel comfortable coaching in? Do I continue coaching there? And the second one being, how do you address other ecologically driven coaches that want to make it a fight between the CLA and the IP approaches?
The first one, I think you might already know the answer to, I suspect.
What do you think the answer is? Because for you to say that, you're assuming that I have a bias towards one answer.
Um, yeah. Given what I know about you, you are very integrity driven.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, but even as I'm saying that, that's really difficult because you're an integrity to yourself, which is on the surface simple. Because if you're integrity to yourself, you would leave. But also, you have an integrity to being a coach. So leaving means abandoning or stepping away from those individuals who could and would benefit from your coaching. So in other words, no.
So you're like, damn it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's really tricky.
Yeah, because logically speaking, I'd leave.
Mm,
But if I'm going to do what it is that I want to do, which is obviously help individuals, coach, make jumping fun, and to try and make some sort of shift in the coaching landscape, I need to actually make a shift in the coaching landscape, which means, I mean, it's not like a suck it up sort of thing, but it's okay, here's the problem. Let's try and tackle the problem.
how will you tackle the problem?
I don't know, that's what I'm doing.
How could you tackle the problem then?
I-
Like, what ideas have you had?
so far, obviously, I'm coaching the way that I see as more effective. Um, and I don't know what's wrong until I've been told what's wrong. So that's what I'm doing at the moment is I'm coaching the way that I feel is more effective, that's keeping individuals engaged, um, and progressing and doing the things that they want to do. But I heard from one coach on Friday that I'm skipping steps. I'm moving them through the skills too quickly because they're doing certain biomechanical things wrong. So visually, if you watch someone do a tuck back somersault, for example, they start on their feet, they do 360 degrees rotation backwards, and then they land on their feet. Right? That is a backflip, a back somersault. And you can do that in lots of different shapes. The easiest one is in a ball, in a tuck shape. If you do a tucked back somersault in the middle, that's pretty good, right? You can do a backflip. But if you lead with your head going backwards, that's wrong, apparently. Um, because you, there's various reasons, but because you're not looking forwards at the trampoline and doing what's called a flat back or a straight or a feet driven takeoff. So you're not starting in a straight shape to get the feet to go round and then keeping your head in line with your body to be able to tuck in and then exit out of the shape straight to come round. The problem with that, for me, is you're asking an individual to put more feet, which means more rotation, into a somersault that is already going from feet to feet. And you're then asking them to straighten out in a somersault that they've not done before. But you want them to do these two biomechanical things, which is going to speed them up and slow them down. So two drastic changes to the skill without them actually doing those two things. Because you don't want the person to exit, because if they exit and they don't put the feet in, they land on their head. Not safe. And if you ask them to put their feet in, but they stay tucked, now they over rotate and they land on their back of their head, which again is unsafe. So you're asking them to do these two things, but to do these two things so lightly that it doesn't impact the safety of the original skill, which to me isn't possible. Like,
Mm.
as a trampolinist myself, I've never understood it. When certain coaches say to me, I was going to say a coach, but there's been multiple coaches that say the same thing. You need more feet in that. More feet means more rotation, but if I've done the thing, why do I need more feet? Like, if I were to say to someone, okay, if you do a somersault, a flip from feet to feet, and I say you need to rotate more, they would ask, why? I did it. And that's the question that I get. That's the question that I would ask. And the answer that you would get from the coach is because it's not right. And then give you loads of biomechanical reasons why it's not right. How do I address that? My current thinking is to, instead of coach a simple skill, asking them to do things that are drastically different, coach a drastically different skill. So ask them to put an exit on said skill. Why they would want an exit if they're not going to compete, I have no idea. So there is still some friction there. But that's what I'm working with. It's still using ecologically valid coaching, so giving the individual a challenge, a task to try and complete. Why they want to do that challenge, yeah, that's the question. But it's encouraging them to do the thing that the other coaches want them to do, without me telling them, you need more feet, you need a flat back takeoff, etc., etc.
Mm.
And this is consistent through a lot of clubs that I've seen. You need
Mm.
chin to your chest, look down your body, or look at the end deck, or find a focus point. If they're visually impaired, that they can't see the focus point.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, so
That would
that's my
unbalance. I don't know about you, but that would imbalance me if I was to have it to look at a point. One, my head goes like this because I need to try and kind of actually
hmm
look at it, which then I would imagine changes everything.
Yeah.
Just the fact
Well,
that
now
you
you've got
being
to tilt.
straight
You've got
to
a tilt
tilt.
or you've got a tilt or a twist in there because your head's going off center line.
Yeah.
As soon as something goes off center line, either you're tilting sideways, so like side somersault, or you're twisting. And obviously, if you're doing rotations, you don't want to be twisting because instead of
Mm.
going like facing one way and land facing the same way, you're going to twist and face another way, which obviously isn't ideal unless you're meant to do it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's my current attempt. But we will see because there was some other um drama
Spike.
that happened in trampoline clubs
Um,
because they're unnecessarily competitive, which I think it's business. It's yes, it's a nasty
it's
side of business.
commerce. I think it's commerce. It's just how we're thought to behave in commerce and how everything's a competition and everything's about beating another person. And then, of course, you've got competitive sports individuals as well on top of that. And perhaps some of those coaches used to compete and so think competing is basically everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I could imagine that's
So I
entertaining.
guess from your business perspective, then, if your client was to go to another coach, how would you feel about that?
Um, well, it would suck. But often my clients have multiple coaches.
That's what I mean.
So it's fine. Like I have clients who have a life coach. I have a client who has, yeah, I have two clients who have life coaches. And then some of them may have financial coaches. Like there's so many different constraints of coaching. And I think with my the way that I coach is kind of very holistic. It's very I don't go in one place. It is very much there is a business framing to it, but it is very much across the board. We look at everything and how each individual piece influences each other because there is direct interaction between the environment and the individual. And there we go. That everything influences everything. And I have contradicted other people's coaches
Yep.
because the advice was awful, frankly. Um, But yeah, I don't really care. People need different things from different people.
That's what I'm thinking. So I'm curious then with the coaching that you do and some of the coaching that other people do, when you say obviously you said that there was some advice that conflicted. If you've got conflicting advice, Because that would be, in my world, a person going to Eastbourne Trampoline and then going to another club. Like, if there's conflicting advice about how to do said thing, how do you as the coach manage that? Because in the sports world, that's just not a thing. Like, you play for one team.
Yeah. I mean, first what do they want? Like, what do I perceive that they want? And what do they say they want? Like, what are they looking to do? What is looking to happen for them? What are they trying to achieve with me? What are they trying to achieve with them? And it's very much led by them of like where they are at. And often it's a question of, okay, cool. Is it possible? And often what happens is I set them, you know, I design a practice for them which uses both. I have a client who actually came to me one time and said, "Can you please just create a schedule for me? Just tell me how to schedule my time. I want someone to come and schedule my time." And I'm like, "Okay, I mean, I can do that if you would like me to, but here's my question: why? Like, what schedule would you like to see? What would you like scheduled?" And once we explored that, it's like, "Okay, cool. Can you schedule your week?" They came back to me a week later. I didn't do a schedule. I'm like, "Okay, cool. What happened?
That was going to be my question.
What happened?" And it was purely, well, I got into quote unquote a hyper focus. I got into and they were focusing on other things. I'm like, "Cool, okay. Is that what you wanted to do?" "Well, yeah, okay." "Well, it wasn't all, I wasn't organized." "Okay." And then they started showing me spreadsheets of them organizing everything. I'm like, "Huh, okay. So what what part were you not organized with? Like, what would you like to be more, where would you like to be more organized? How would you like to be more organized?" Because they have this massive conflict between being organized, because being organized means being perfect and perfection because of all of the stuff that happens for people, for all of us. And then you have the other side of, actually, I'm a self-organizing
Life.
life. I'm a self-organizing organism.
You have to speed it up just to get it out.
Yeah, I did, yeah. And then I just said, "You're self-organizing. What's going on for you? Like, that's what you're doing." "Oh, tell me more about that." And I'm like, "Okay, take a seat."
Ecological psychology.
Yeah, and then I introduced Eco and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's the first time I have actually felt like it." What I got was the first time they felt competent in what they were doing
Hmm.
because they're self-organizing. It's just like, and what they were taught, what we got to, which leads on to my point, is they were trying to figure out, and it was really interesting because they kept saying that they were, why does that word,
Executive dysfunctioning.
yeah, it was like executive dysfunctioning, or executive functioning wasn't working. And so we looked at what that meant. And to them, which I thought was fascinating and kind of interesting and kind of representative of my thing, is that executive dysfunction is when you're self-organizing and what you actually want to achieve, like your integrity, what you want to do, and what you are aiming for in your life doesn't match, and it's the gap in between. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm not sure I agree 100%, but I like the idea of, because we self-organize, and then there is some, as the way that I've seen it is that you nudge it in a direction. Sometimes you add a constraint just to bring it to the direction you want to go. The journey that you're on and that you want to achieve a certain thing that you need to do, whether it be for a deadline, which is a fixed hard deadline that needs to be done, or whether it's something that you're like, "Oh no, I really want to actually get this done now, and I need to give myself a little bit more of a nudge than I normally would."
So I guess what's the difference in there? Because we're always self-organizing, assuming ecological
Yes.
psychology, of course.
Yes.
And we have an intention. So what's the difference between having an intention and doing the intention through self-organization, and having an intention and not doing it again through self-organization. Surely that would mean that the intention has shifted rather than you not doing what you wanted to do.
True. That's true.
If I want to do thing A, I start doing thing A and then I decide to go and do thing B. Is
Mm.
is that me again? This is kind of like a half full, half empty cup thing. Like, did I decide
Yeah,
to do B or did I decide not to do A? Well, both. Like, you decided not to do A, but because you decided to do B, but why did you decide to do B would be the questions that I would be asking, because that means that whatever's going on in that situation when you're self-organizing, the priority has shifted for some reason. If that is a valid reason, then B makes more sense to complete. If it's an invalid
exactly what
reason,
happened.
then
Yeah.
why did you follow it? If you followed it for an invalid reason, I'm using invalid because it's the simplest term to use here, but I don't think it's as accurate as it could be. But if that reason is invalid upon reflection, that would be something in skill development you would look to address, i.e., I've done this for so many years and this is just a habit, as people would say. It's a habit of mine to do it like that. Okay, so how do we retrain the way that you behave? How do you
Mm.
retrain that bad habit so that you don't do B and A? Like, this is an obvious thing when it comes to distractions. Like, I can
Mm.
have my phone next to me, I can look at a notification and carry on doing my work. Some people would look at their phone, look at the notification, then have to respond to their notification because they feel obliged. They feel like they have to respond.
Mm.
Where does that feeling come from? Would be my
Yeah.
question. Like, why does your intention from doing said work need to shift so drastically when other information in the environment is shared?
Yeah, and that was something that we discussed with okay, so why were you doing this? And I did ask, like it was activity one versus I want to be more creative and do creative things and things like that, which was very, you know, amalgamous anyway. But so why did you do? Oh, well, because this came in and that came in and it needed to be done and I had to send all this thing. Okay, so is that what you wanted to do? Well, yeah. Okay.
So where's the problem?
Yeah. It was where we ended up. And it was interesting. Yeah. Mm.
So I guess somewhat related to this conversation with organization is Morgan's AI planner.
I haven't used it. I haven't had time to touch it. Is it
Okay.
good?
I think it is very, very, very close to being how I plan my weeks. Um, Instead of manually organizing it, the AI planner is doing almost everything that I would want it to do. Like, when I look at my week and I think, "Oh, okay, I'll probably put those in those slots," the AI planner just puts them in those slots. It even with the Obsidian tasks, which I learned recently, if you put, for example, eight like open bracket 8H close bracket in the task name, the AI planner recognizes that that Obsidian task takes 8 hours. And because it's a long task and you can have it split up, and obviously the frames inside of Morgan, for those unfamiliar, there are frames. So it's like an event, but you make it so that it's a see-through frame, and you can make the frames specifically filtered. So I have some frames like just after lunch for Obsidian tasks. So if I have a Obsidian project for 8 hours and I have five 2 hour slots for Obsidian tasks, the Morgan AI Planner will split up my Obsidian project into 4 2 hour blocks: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then it would leave the Friday slot or add in another Obsidian task or multiple Obsidian tasks in the Friday slot. For all of my email tasks, if I've got something in Google Mail, I'll use the shortcut to add it to Google Tasks. And I don't even need to look at my Google Task tab in Morgan because the AI Planner looks at that automatically. If I've got anything that comes from Outlook, if I flag the email, it goes into the Outlook. If I've got anything that goes into, well, any of my Outlooks or any of my Gmails, they just go into the appropriate Google task or appropriate Outlook things. If there's a task that comes from work, it goes into Microsoft To Do. And all of those are in a frame in the morning that is just like admin inbox. and the AI planner just takes them all and goes, there's all your email tasks, there's all your like boring admin tasks you need to do in the morning. And then for the evening, I pick up all well, for the late afternoon, I pick up the trampoline ones and the other Morgan inbox ones. So I'm using the frame filters to say, hey, this is kind of like my theme. At this time of the day, I want to be doing these sorts of things. At this time of day, I want to be doing these sorts of things. And that's Monday to Friday, so weekday frames. And then Saturday and Sunday, I have a miscellaneous. So, hey, just put anything else that I haven't done here. And it's just a 4 hour frame, and the AI just dumps it in. If it's estimated as half an hour, goes in half an hour. Estimated an hour, goes in an hour. Estimated in as 2 hours, but I don't have a 2 hour slot. It puts half hour one place, half hour another place, an hour another place. It is almost to a point where it just works. And knowing what's on the roadmap and seeing what's on the roadmap, I'm very excited to see some things come out, and I don't know how much I can talk about it right now, so I'm gonna leave it there. But yeah, the Morgan AI Planner is doing way more than I thought it was going to.
Oh, nice.
I've seen you like pushing buttons, so I've sort of carried on
Yeah, I'm
talking while
now
you've
playing.
been
I'm
piddling.
fiddling because I'm kind of like, oh, this is interesting. I'm like, oh, I
Because
need to
they've
go play with that
changed
one now.
quite a bit of the UI recently.
Yeah, I'm noticing that. Interesting. I need to go fiddle more.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need,
yeah. Yeah,
I need
maybe
to
we
go.
can do that off record. But
Interesting.
it brings up the question, organizing. You asked me this 2 weeks ago, probably actually a week and a half ago. Can AI organize my time? I'd say no. I'd say hell no. I tried it. I tried it with Reclaim. I tried it with Motion. I really tried it with Reclaim. I briefly tried it with Motion and it just threw stuff around far too much. I didn't have enough control. Reclaim was similar. Like I had the control there, but it didn't have like tasks from Obsidian from anywhere else. So I was like, it's throwing events where I have tasks. But I don't want the event there. And yeah, so Reclaim it worked, but didn't give me enough flexibility for my calendar because my calendar isn't just a couple of events here and there. For those that have seen my
Yeah,
calendar, I have like I
a
think I have
lot.
th yeah, I think I have 37 calendars now on my calendar account, which is a lot. That's spread over 5 different accounts. There's 3 Google accounts and 2 Outlook accounts in my Morgan. That's including 2 Outlook calendar task integrations, 2 To-Do task integrations, 3 Google task integrations, Todoist task integration, 2 Notion databases, a ClickUp database, a linear database, obviously Morgan, and then Obsidian Vault. And I think that's all of them. Uh, yes, that's all of them. So all of those things are different places that tasks come in. Reclaim can't do that. Morgan can, because Morgan just looks at them all. So, yeah, you
Oh,
asked me a week and a half ago, can AI organize your time? I would have said, hell no. But having played around with Morgan this last week, yes, there are some teething issues, don't get me wrong. But it's not the AI getting it wrong, it's the people coding the AI making an assumption, and the assumption doesn't match the assumption that you would make. So it's like, well, can you just add a setting? Like the split, for example, some people would assume that you would split a long task into 2 shorter tasks. Some people would not want that assumption. They would want it to be a
mm.
2 hour block. So it's a toggle. Like split it or don't split it. So they give you the control. If you don't want to organize a task, right click and say ignore this, and the AI planner ignores it, reshuffles things around. So if you want a bit of control, you've got the control, but AI still throws it. So it's like it's assisted, it's suggested, it's not AI run.
Which I think is where it's really powerful. Like that right there, I think is really powerful. Like that, just mm, that AI assisted. Because
Mm.
once you know that, because then you have that control, then you have that.
I think
Yeah.
I think they actually call it suggestions.
Mm,
So, and something else that I've been, again, I think this is because I know how it works. It does. It says, oh. moving mouse in the right place. Start AI planner here because you can start on a day or start it on a week or however many days. There's something else that I'm also fiddling with when it comes to the planner because Morgan has calendar sets.
Mm.
The AI planner assumes the events that you're looking at, right? So if you have a calendar frame and a different calendar, so I've got my task calendar and then I've got an events calendar, for example, and you hide your task calendar, the AI planner will ignore your task calendar and only look at the AI. So you could have a frame from 9 till 10 that's tasks and a frame from 10 till 11 that's events. And you could just restrict the AI planner and what it's looking at by adding it by using a calendar set for that calendar. So I can plan out all of my what's it called, projects, YouTube projects, first by going to that calendar set. And that
That's really
and that's not
cool.
interrupted by everything else. So that's me doing the no code workaround stuff. Finding workflows.
That's really cool.
Which again, it's another dynamic that I don't think other AI planners have.
Mm-mm.
And that's what's exciting because it's merging the control that we want slash have with the suggestions.
Oh,
So
that's really exciting. Sorry, I'm thinking because one of the things that I've been thinking about for myself recently. So obviously, I I work for a company now,
mhm.
and I do some work for them as a contractor, and it's been really different for how I operate my day. So it shifted it slightly. Probably similar to you with like going and working a 9 to 3 or whatever. It's a similar thing, and it's actually changed how I run my day, and it's been quite a shift. So I'm like, either I spend all my time just doing the work for them, which means my own business doesn't move anywhere because you've got to work on all of it. Otherwise, things don't happen. Which is what happened this month. It was like, okay, cool. This is not gonna finish. This is not like I haven't been working on my business because I've been so focused on the work that I've been doing for this company that I just haven't done it. Um, and so this is just giving me so many ideas because I can set a frame for each, like this group, that group, this thing, that group, like, and calendar sets.
Exactly. This is the thing. The frame gives you theming. Like, I know that, like, you could be really particular about it because the frames are just every day. So you could say, every Wednesday, I'm doing this sort of work. Every Thursday morning, I'm doing this sort of work. So it gives you the control of that rather than AI having to try and figure it out from learning. No, you just filter it. And this is the thing. Like, you can direct the AI suggestions. I did just realize that one of the things in Morgan is you have a plan my day task, and I had it every weekday because it wasn't doing Saturday and Sunday. I was like, what is the problem? I just clicked on it and it's recurring every weekday, not every day. So I changed that. Like, duh. But yeah, they've added AI natural language to the recurrence as well. So custom, you can just type it in rather than having to manual.
I
It's so
know.
good.
It's so thank you, Morgan. Thank you so much.
But yeah, so the framing, I think, allows for almost templated suggestions. So you're like, this is how I work. So I work with these tasks in the morning, these tasks in the afternoon, these tasks late afternoon, these tasks evening. Some people maybe like, nah, I want to eat the frog. So you could have an eat the frog sort of like framing. And because these are calendars, this is what I'm thinking. I have no idea whether this is going to be a thing or not. I'm just spitballing here because these are events on calendars. You have like Obsidian templates and Notion
Mm,
templates. Could
mm.
you have a like a an Amelia theme template where it's a calendar that someone subscribes to, and it's a calendar that goes into their Morgan that has the same theming as you?
Oh, that's cool.
So you can have like a Thomas Frank theme and an Ali Abdul theme and a Danny Hatcher theme, or whatever, August Bradley theme. Like it's a weekly. Well, Mike Vardy obviously with his weekly themes, and because it's calendar events, it could be bi-weekly, of course. So you can have
Mm.
like week A, week B, or you could have an Eat the Frog theme or a Getting Things Done theme because you can filter via priority, or you could filter via Notion database property. Because obviously it's a property that's brought in metadata through the Notion integration.
That's interesting.
If you add that dynamic to a Notion calendar sort of look, and you say, "Hey, Notion calendar users, you can have a theme, and you can say all the 3-star high priorities from the select property go into this block in the morning automatically." I think that would be a big selling point.
Just a little bit. Because I always found like Reclaim and Notion Motion, sorry, to be so annoying.
Are there anyone else? Like Motion and Reclaim are the two that I've experimented with. I know there are some that do some bits, but I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't like them. It's just like they basically went, "Oh, I'm just going to do it for you because you're too stupid to like." The assumption they made is that we couldn't organize ourselves. That was we're talking about the assumption. The assumption is I need someone to fix it for me because I don't have a clue. But I have a clue. I know how I work.
You're
You,
probably stopped because you're looking at my face.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, so I just had a search on the Tinternet and I looked for motion alternatives. So this is an AI calendar scheduling app, and the alternatives that come up are Calendly, which isn't a calendar app, it's a scheduling tool. Zapier, which has nothing to do with calendars. Sweet Dash, which I've never heard of. Acuity Scheduling, which
The
is
gosh.
no. ZoneMinder, iSpy, Haven, Motion Eye, like these are just scheduling tools. Like they're not AI things. So I'm like, where's the
Wouldn't
where's
it
the
be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if Morgan I might go and put this in the thing afterwards. What if Morgan AI, we've got the invite and the invitations and the scheduling of that.
hmm,
What if it could do that?
what do you mean?
What if it could recommend 2 to 3 blocks of time to someone if they're booking a call?
What's the difference between that and a scheduling link?
Well, they take the scheduling link, but we have to set up the scheduling link, right?
Yeah.
What if we didn't? Like, what if it just uses the frames?
How would that work on the other user's
No
side?
idea. No
Because
idea. It's
obviously
just
it would need the information from both calendars because we kind of already have that in the team plan. Because inside the team plan, obviously we have access to busy calendars. So I can click on whoever's face and it blocks the team, and then I can just put a meeting
brilliant.
in the slot, because it would recognize all of the team as busy. Um, so you'll get that in a team plan, but doing it for public, the public would need to give you access to their busy calendar, assuming their busy calendar is up to date.
Well, it's not even that. It was more just purely on our side. Like instead of having to set up those calendars, it would it's kind of like recommended times. This is a good time to meet with M or Dan.
Ah, okay. So sort of like you say, I want to meet with this person. When would be the best time to meet?
Mm.
Right. So that, yeah, I wouldn't say that's a scheduling link. That's more you putting in a time for an event. And that's actually something that there's some feature requests because I've been going through the feature requests. Did I mention that I'm community support for Morgan?
Yeah, I think you've been.
Yeah.
I assumed you have been for ages. So
Oh yeah, it's more in a formal role now in community support. Um, but yeah, so I've been looking through the feature requests, and there's one to have events in the sidebar, so not just tasks, but events as well. So events that aren't scheduled. So that would be an interesting use case. I want to have an event with some person, and I'm going to put it in the sidebar, and now I want AI to give me a suggestion of to when to have this meeting. That is an interesting use case, which I like.
yeah,
Submit that as a feature request, please, and I will upvote it.
that's really cool.
I found another website for alternatives to motion, Sunsama. I didn't think Samsama had AI scheduling. It might do, but looking at the cost, $16 a month is quite significant.
That's quite significant. Yeah.
Todoist certainly doesn't have AI scheduling features because they've
I
only just
think
brought in
it
a calendar.
I think it does now. Does it not?
It has AI features, but I don't think AI scheduling features. Because it's one, there's no meetings in there, so that would be difficult to do it inside of Todoist anyway. And it's only Todoist; it doesn't have all the other stuff that I mentioned earlier. But they've only just brought in the calendar, so how are they going to schedule in the calendar? Oh, actually, maybe it will do because it's only one due date. So, oh, that's something else that I forgot to mention. Obviously, because Morgan has multiple schedules, if you've estimated a task is going to be an hour and you've only scheduled half an hour, AI Planner will recognize, oh, it's meant to be, you've meant to have another half hour and adds a multiple slot.
I did actually see that happen because I had an 8 hour task
Yeah,
and
it's
and
clever
it
like
split
that.
up and was like 7 hours and then an extra one. I was like, oh, you're smart. I like that.
Yeah, you're doing the things that I would do.
Mm,
The things that I would normally say, AI, please, can you do this? It's doing it. I'm like, oh, you did do it. Okay.
mm,
Trello. Mm,
mm,
I don't see how Trello is a competitor to
mm,
any calendar app.
mm, mm.
Akiflow, that was the obvious one that I started thinking about, but I don't think they have AI scheduling. They might do. They might have added that. Clockwise, but then Clockwise is the website that I'm actually looking at. So yeah, and that's it. So it's essentially Motion or Akiflow, but I don't think Akiflow has AI planning features. And I think Flow's more expensive, but then they've got a bigger team and
Mm.
loads of other stuff. But yeah, so wasn't expecting to veer off in that direction. But yeah, so thinking of fiddling around with the Morgan.
That yeah, I'm gonna go have fun in a minute. Like, sorry you're not seeing it, but I'm gonna have fun.
Nice. Anything else you want to bring up or mention?
Trampoline. Your dad got on a trampoline for the first time.
Ah, yes, he did. So a bit of context. I started Eastbourne Trampoline for those that aren't aware. So I am organizer, chief, co-head, boss person, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Oh, so many freaking names under the sun, like organizer and chief, founder, and oh yeah, boss. Um,
You love your labels.
oh, can't stand them. Uh, And my dad has never actually been on a trampoline, even when he was younger, because he was a rugby player. So he'd been on the garden trampoline a couple times to sort of like walk around it sort of thing, but not actually. So he'd never been on a Olympic sort of style trampoline, Olympic style trampoline. So he'd never been on one of them. Never been on a trampoline that's a 6'4", which is quite a bounce trampoline. And I mean, he's my dad, so he's not young. Let's put it that way. And he's not extremely physically active. He's like any other dad, really. Sort of goes to work, comes home, does all the house stuff that you would expect him to do, and then watches TV. Um, there's obviously a picture from Eastbourne Trampoline, but he got on the trampoline, and the first go, I saw him try to jump on the first go. I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And the reason I said don't do that is it's very deceiving how much hard work it is to jump on a trampoline. Um, and this was an interesting comment that I think you might resonate with. I asked him to walk just from one end to the other end of the trampoline, and he said, "It feels like I'm drunk, but I'm not drunk because obviously the trampoline moves. Like as soon as you pick one foot up and you've got one foot on the trampoline, you're wobbling." And you got to control yourself. So just the walking alone, he was like, okay, this is weird. And then because of the way trampoline is scored, you're scored in horizontal displacement, how much you move around the trampoline. So there are lines on the trampoline. Um, and there's a red line or two red lines that go from like lengthways and two red lines that go widthways. It creates a rectangle, but it does mean you've got a red line going from one end to the other. I said to him, okay, try and follow it like a tightrope. And again, it was like it's sort of like the drunk test they do. Like when you're drunk, you get out, you do, you go, oh, can you walk in a straight line? It was that, but because it's on a trampoline, if you do it on the left side, closer to the left side of the frame, it pulls you sort of like right because the middle of the trampoline is to your right. But if you're on the right and the trampoline's on your left, then you're leaning left. So either line pulls you either way. So just walking on the trampoline was a new experience. And then I got him walking around in the on the rectangle. And again, you'd think, oh, walk around on a red line, yeah, it's easy. But as soon as you pick one foot up to try and turn the corner, you're like, oh, fall down. And I do the same. Like even when I was trying to demonstrate, I was like, yeah, messed that up. Because I don't normally walk around a trampoline. I'm normally jumping on it. And it was so much fun to see him on the trampoline. Obviously, my face is like smiling. I didn't realize it was that like obvious in the photos. But yeah, seeing him on the trampoline for this first time was like amazing. And then he did some jumping as well, which got a video of, so that'll be going up at some point. But yeah,
Cool.
obviously he has no intention of competing. I wouldn't want him to.
Funny that.
So, but what I think is to me is success is I've now had 5 what I would class as older adults. I'm talking like 40 plus. All give it a go. Like they've all had a go on the trampoline and they haven't been on a trampoline since they were at school, sort of thing. And they're not like me, sort of like young 20s, early 30s, semi-active adults. They're like their parents, they're sort of like they're well into the workforce adults, if you know what I mean. Like I'm trying to describe it without saying, yeah, I don't know how to describe those sorts of adults, but those adults. We've had 5 of those, 4 or 5. Give it a go. I don't know. I don't know what other trampolines clubs are like, but I don't know many that will have had those sort of numbers already. Like we've been up for 6 weeks.
Mm.
But then we also have a couple of adults that are consistently turning up, which is that stopped trampoline. Like they didn't continue like me, they stopped. Or they just didn't do trampoline. To me, that's a success.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is exciting. I will say we do have a lot of boys, which is abnormal for trampoline clubs. I think that's partly because of me, but I'm not sure.
Probably. Possibly.
So, I mean, even with the photos, as you've seen in the poster, there's me, my dad, a boy, and a girl. So there's 3 boys and a girl. And in the session, there was only 1 girl that I could photo that I could put on social media. And then there were 2 like ladies, older, like 1 young 20s, 1 early 30s. But they were jumping while I was coaching, so I couldn't do the pictures and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Mm.
Slowly but surely.
That's really cool.
Yeah. If only you were closer.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure most trampoline clubs would be open to giving it a go.
Yeah, probably. But you could feel the different atmosphere from it.
Well, you can feel the atmosphere from the photos.
The focus on competitive in most places is kind of off-putting from a completely new person.
How do you perceive that? Like how do you recognize or think about trampoline being competitive? Like what are the signals?
It's the heavy focus on like let's have a look because there was stuff. I think there was.
So I've heard this a couple of times. People say, "Oh, trampoline seems so competitive." I agree, but I have my reasons why.
it's just when you look on the social media, because when I'm looking for stuff, I'm looking on social media. That's what I'm doing, is I'm looking on Facebook. Like I want to, because my son is started to take an interest in gymnastics, and like is the only sport that he enjoys because it's fun for him. I,
Exploring movement.
it's just exploring movement. I think he enjoys that. I think he would enjoy trampoline too. Um, but then when I look it up, it's like, oh, competition, competition. Look at these people who have won a competition, which I get, but also it's like, yes, but what about the fun? Whenever I look at Eastbourne, I just see fun, like which I know is by design,
Yep.
and that's the thing that gets me. Like, if I was closer, I would be more likely to want to take my son and even myself to your club versus the ones that are local, because it feels more of a focus on competition, and the photos are focused on people who are competing and are doing really well and look a certain way, act a certain way, and like that's exactly what puts me off.
Yes. And that is exactly why we don't have a kit. Like Eastbourne Trampoline does not have a kit. Doesn't exist. So some people have said that I've been marketing my kit at other clubs. Um, it's not. It's the Barcelona freestyle stuff, which obviously is freestyle trampoline, and it's orange. But our club colours are anything. The logo is orange and purple because that's what the two coaches are in. But as you're well aware, the logo has four colours in because there is green and blue in there as well. And I would have put more colours in there, but then it just looks like a rainbow with some shapes in it. Uh, so we do have two logo colours, but when it comes to colours of kit, we don't have any. If you want to wear burgundy, wear burgundy. You want to put purple or pink or yellow or green or orange or blue or black or grey or white, I do not care. If you want kit, as in Eastbourne Trampoline kit, in work in progress right now, you can have the logo put on whatever you want. If you want to put it on your trousers or on your shorts, we can do that. On your jacket, on your jumper, on your we can do that. You just give us the garment and we put the logo on it. Like, I don't care what you're wearing as long as it hasn't got zips in, because zips on trampolines dangerous because you cut yourself. Yeah, but obviously put it on a jacket and then take the jacket off when you're on jumping. So when it comes to the colors and the branding and the marketing, like, oh, what are you going to wear in competition? I'm like, whatever you want. What do you mean? You're not going to have a leotard? No. Well, don't you need to look like a team? No. Well, how are you going to market your? I don't want to. I want people to jump.
Mm.
I don't let you can tell me if I'm wrong here. I feel like you might not have been to enough sports competitions, but I don't know your background, so there's some assumptions here. I feel like you can tell what sports club or what types of sports club people go to by looking at them and their behavior, not just the kit they're in. I guess
Yes,
you could associate it to schools.
yeah, and music,
Yeah,
which is very, it
similar.
still is a sport
Yeah, it's
in
an art.
many ways. Yeah. So yes, yeah, you can.
Now I can see someone jump on a trampoline and know roughly what type of club they're at.
Mm.
Like, I can tell by the way that the person's pushing in the mat. I can tell by the way the person's jumping, the way the person does the skills, and I can tell how they act, like walking around the floor and how they behave. I don't need to look at the color of the leotard to know that. I mean, some of the leotards that I see in competition, I have no idea what club is related to, and some of the clubs, I don't know where they are. Like flight crew and twisters and jumpers and jumping and rebound and recoil. Like, where are these places? Like, I know roughly where they are because I'm familiar with the world. But if you're outside of that, that could be anywhere. Eastbourne trampoline. Oh, that's an Eastbourne, and it's trampoline. um, but when you hear those names, I don't know. And when you see a leotard, you have no idea where or what the place is. So why do I need everyone to look the same in a leotard? For someone to go, oh, that person goes to the same place that person does? How does that help?
Doesn't.
No. So small little rant there at the end, but yeah.
Woohoo.
Yeah. Right. I think that's a good place to close it out. So thank you for listening. Speak to you all next week.
See you next week. Bye.